Alright guys, before we jump into today's video, I did want to shout out Fade Me, the merch brand we have here on the channel. If you want to support what we're doing here, help us grow, and get some good merch at the same time, make sure to check it out, fademe.store. You can use code FADE and you get a discount at checkout. Thanks for supporting, go check it out. Now let's get to the video.
All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Week number 4 in the NFL. We're gonna go through the entire Sunday slate today, well, minus the Sunday night football game, because each and every Sunday night football, Thursday night football, and Monday night football game are their own video on the channel. But we're gonna go through all of the other games on Sunday today. I'll give you my lean or leans on the games as we talk about them, but all my final plays, so what I'm ultimately gonna be rolling with, those will be in the pinned comment. If you do want to fade me, those plays again will be in the pinned comment here. Coming off a week that was kind of mediocre. We salvaged it by putting 2 units on Travis Kelce anytime touchdown score the minute Taylor Swift was announced at the game, so that kind of had us break even. I think we lost 0.3 units on the Sunday slate video, so not all that poor. We crushed Monday night, which was awesome to see, going I think 6-2 between the 2 games. But yeah, let's carry some of that momentum into today's Sunday slate. Guys, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. Last week we passed 30,000 subscribers. Pumping some crowd noise. Thank you guys so damn much, but we're not stopping here. We're going to continue to grow, keep grinding for you guys, putting out an absurd amount of content over the last couple weeks, at least videos that I've been in. I think it's been like 34 videos on the channel. Absolutely crazy, but nonetheless, guys, we love doing it. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. Before we do jump into it, I want to talk to you guys about Sleeper. If you have not checked out Sleeper yet, you are seriously missing out. You can use the link in the pinned comment. You get 100% of your first deposit matched. It's a no-brainer, guys. You throw in 50 bucks, they'll give you 50. You'll have a new account balance of 100 bucks. And if you don't know what Sleeper is, it's another pick'em app out there. It's probably my favorite one right now. You combine at least 2 to 8 player props in a slip. Obviously, the more you get right, the more you get paid out. And what I like about Sleeper is each and every one of their players, or the slips that you put in, has a dynamic payout multiplier. They don't just follow the fixed payout structure like all of the other apps out there, like Prize Picks, Underdog, etc. Right? So go check out Sleeper today. If it's legal in your state and you are not on Sleeper, you're missing out on some serious fun. And they drop a bunch of promo squares week to week during the NFL season. So make sure to go check it out and do not be late to those promo squares. That link is in the pinned comment. Get 100% of your first deposit matched. Enough of my big mouth here. Let's go ahead and get into game number 1 of this week 4 slate. It's Jacksonville hosting Atlanta here. They're playing over the pond over in Wembley Stadium, so this one is going to be at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know they've done this for, I still don't really know how I feel about the wake up and 9:30 football. Like, I kind of like the slow roll into the Sunday slate, but I will say it's nice having a game right away. But let me know in the comments what you guys think of the overseas game. Do you like the morning football? It's kind of similar to what you'd be if you're on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of that. And I just realized, too, that's going to be a really early game, I guess, for the West Coast to watch, 6:30 a.m. But we got Jacksonville taking on Atlanta here. Jacksonville coming off of a heartbreaking loss against Houston last week. They got pummeled. That's how they played. Womp, 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 womp. They got pummeled 37-17 by Houston last week, and Atlanta also got pummeled 20-6. That being said, I do think that Jacksonville is the better team here. I like them in a bounce back spot. If they were playing decent, so if they didn't go out there and get smacked by Kansas City and get smacked by Houston, and this is assuming that they're better than they've been playing, who knows, right? The season will tell. But if they were, playing a little bit better, I think they'd be larger favorites in this spot. So -3, minus the field goal, I'll take it. I do like both defenses here, so I'm also going to take a peek at that under 43.5. It's a little bit low of a number, but I still think that is a fair line and a fair total to put this game at. So I'll lean towards Jacksonville minus the points, as well as the under 43.5. All right, Buffalo taking on Miami. This should be an electric game, and I know people are going to think I'm absolutely crazy. I know people are going to say that, what are you doing, you lunatic? My main lean in this game is taking a peek at the under 54. Yes, you have 2 really high, or what can be really high-flying offenses. Buffalo, their last 2 weeks, 37 and 38 points. Oh, did we forget to mention Miami scored 70 points last week against Denver, 36 in week 1, and then week 2, 24 against New England. But Buffalo is technically a better defense than New England, and New England made it tough for Tua and company to put points on the board. I think Buffalo gives Miami a harder time than they've at least faced this season. Again, it's the Chargers, no defense. Denver, literally the worst rated defense in the league right now. New England, good defense, not everything clicking yet, but Buffalo is a true defensive team. They've allowed 13 points through the last 2 weeks, and technically speaking, even week 1, that went to overtime, that could have been a 16-point allowed game, so their defense is there. I feel like they're kind of getting slept on here. I like the under in this spot. I think that this is going to be a game in which everybody and their grandmother is on the over, so I'll take the under 54 and a half. 54. I've seen it at 53 and a half on books too, so it might be moving down in that direction if people are thinking the same thing I'm thinking, but as of right now, I do know that most of the public here, 76% of bets right now are on the over, so I'll gladly take that under spot. In terms of a side pick here, Buffalo minus 2.5 doesn't really scare me. Again, I think that this is going to be the first sort of punch in the face that Miami faces, no pun intended. And with that being said, if Miami goes out there and drops a bunch of points on Buffalo and, you know, they're not even fazed by the defense, then we know this Miami run is like legitimate. And I'm not saying it's not legitimate right now, but I do think that they're going to face some bumps along the way. They're not this incredibly, perfect team. Like, they do have gaps on their defense and stuff like that. So, and we've seen Tua get injured or make bad plays before. Like, there are some battle testing kinks that they got to kind of work out here. So I will take Buffalo or minus 2.5. If Miami goes and stomps on them, then you know what? Hook, line, and sinker, probably the best team in the league, right? Because this is their biggest test yet. But give me Buffalo as well as the under in this spot. We'll sound the psycho alert alarm. It's probably warranted for taking that under. All right, Minnesota taking on Carolina. I must be crazy or something because I keep liking Minnesota. I think we've leaned towards their direction in every game this week, excluding Thursday Night Football. They played the Eagles. I like the Eagles in that. But again, this spot, I just think that this is such a no-brainer to me. But this is an 0-3 team that we're talking about, as are the Panthers, right? So it's like you have two bad teams playing each other. But give me Minnesota. -4, you can get over on FanDuel right now. I really don't hate that number. Yes, do I wish it was 3? Of course. At this point, we might even take like an alternate line up to 5.5. Just mathematically speaking, why would you look at 4 or 4.5? It's going to be pretty much the same difference when you look at it from the 5.5 perspective. But keep an eye on the pinned comment to see the final sort of line or odds that we end up rolling with. But give me Minnesota on the spread here, laying the points on the road. I do think this is kind of a nut up or shut up week for Kirk Cousins. He does have weapons. They were inches away from winning that game in week number 3 there against the Chargers. Just kind of some stupidity down towards the end of the game. But if they don't do that, they can win that thing. But in terms of a total, I also don't mind the over here. The only problem is that I don't know if the Panthers are really going to be able to carry their own weight. They've scored 10 points, 17 points, and then they did their job last week, 27 against the Seahawks. But obviously we have more low-scoring games than we do high-scoring games for them this season. Andy Dalton at the helm, too, I believe, still a little questionable there. So I lean towards the over. I do think that is probably the spot here. I wouldn't consider the under, but it may just stay at a lean if we can't really trust the Carolina side of things. Minnesota, if you watched H to H, the video that I do with Tassos on the channel here, we go head to head and round by round and make picks against one another and compete all year long. I have a team total play on Minnesota alternate over 24.5. I like Minnesota to score a bunch of points here. Minnesota to score a bunch of points here in this week. So yeah, I do think that this is going to be a successful week for them, but I've kind of thought that for 2 of their 3 games, and it hasn't been all that great. It hasn't worked out well. Chicago taking on Denver here. You have the 31st defense taking on the 32nd defense. I like the over, but the problem is these offenses aren't really in sync or clicking yet. Chicago through 3 games, 20, 17, and 10 in terms of their scores. Denver had the overtime 33 against Washington, but other than that, 16, 20. We're still waiting for these offenses to come along, but we sure as hell know that these defenses are not put together. Just as good as Miami is, there's a reason why they're able to score 70 points. It's because Denver's defense is so bad. So you pair literally one of the best offenses with one of the worst defenses, and that's how you get to 70. It's not just that Miami is that good. Like, if that's a mediocre defense they're playing, they probably drop 50, which is still a crap ton of points, but it was 70 and record-breaking for a reason. It's because of that bad Denver defense. And Chicago, you can't say much else with them either. Like they're not a good defense either. So I like the over here. You can get at 46 over on FanDuel right now. It scares me, though, because if you're betting on the over, yes, we're kind of fading the defenses, but we're considering the offenses, and we haven't seen that click yet. But these two guys, Fields and Russell Wilson, like they can't really get much worse than they've been. So hopefully there's a little bit of progression there this week. In terms of a spread, I like the Broncos on this side of things. Minus the 3 points, minus the 3.5 points, I think is where the line is as of right now. But 3 is probably a safer bet, obviously. Winning by, a field goal is a push potential. So give me the Broncos on the spread as well as the over in this spot. All right, Cleveland hosting Baltimore here. The Cleveland Browns are 2-1, and they're 2-1 against the spread. Baltimore getting a couple points or a few points, plus 3. They are 2-1 against the spread as well as straight up here as well. They're 1-0 when it comes to being on the road. And in their last 24 games against the Browns, they've won 18 of them. They have their number here. It's evened out a little bit over the last 10. That's a 6-4 split there, still in favor of the Ravens. But I like the spot for the Ravens almost on the money line here. In terms of the odds that you're getting, decent value as well. Let's see, we had it up in front of us just a second ago. Plus 126 right now over on DraftKings. Plus 125 on BetMGM. There is some value on the Ravens in this spot. So I like their chances to win it. If you want to give me the 3 points, sure, because that is obviously a crucial kind of turnkey number there. 3, but if it goes to 2.5, which I have seen on some books, I probably just go with the money line. Like I think this is going to be a good game for them. Hopefully they can kind of bounce back from what happened yesterday, losing with a last-second field goal to Indianapolis, whereas Cleveland just kind of walked their way through that game against Tennessee. I like Baltimore's bounce back chances here today. In terms of the total, I'll be honest, I don't have much of a feel for it. In terms of weather that we're looking at here, should be decent weather. That is a low number for a reason, though. So I'm going to lean towards the under just because I'm trying to line read here. Like, why is that total so low if you have two teams that, I guess you couldn't really say Baltimore absolutely had been going off, but Cleveland scored 27. They've scored 20 plus points in every single game this season, right? Baltimore, up until last week, in which they scored 19, had been scoring over 20 points. So that should combine for at least 40-41. So the fact that this is sitting at 40.5 is a little worrisome to me. So I'm going to lean towards the under because I think the books a lot of the times know what they're doing. All right, guys, before we continue on with the slate, I did want to talk to you about OddsJam. If you haven't checked out the OddsJam tool yet, you are missing out. It's really, really, really cool. A great way to compare all of the best prices out there across all of the plays in the market. Player props, totals, spreads, money lines, all that type of things. It's really cool to think, why would you buy a car for 20 grand, right? If you could walk down the street, I've said it before, and buy it for half the price. You need to be getting the best prices out there for your plays, and OddsJam is a tool built for just that. You can get 7 days free with the link in the pinned comment. But on top of that, that is not all. If you choose to continue your subscription, use code GUYBOSTON when signing up. You get 25% off your first month. Yes, 25% off your first month. Just go try it out. That link is in the pinned comment. They also have an arbitrage betting tool, which I've been hammering and testing out. If you don't know what arbitrage betting is, it's using multiple sportsbook to take two different sides of the exact same bet and ensure profit either way. They make it simple. I also have a video on the channel if you want to check that out. It's right on the featured video of the homepage of our channel. So make sure to go check that out and check out OddsJam. Again, link in the pinned comment. Now let's go ahead and get back to the slate. Houston taking on Pittsburgh here. Houston had the crazy win last week, 37-17. I can't imagine they do that again, right? And you're going to give me Pittsburgh minus less than a field goal. Not that I love this Pittsburgh team, but the defense has looked pretty good. They take the win both in primetime spots against Cleveland and then against Las Vegas. Maybe they're a little bit better than I had been or still am giving them credit for. So I'm going to lean towards Cleveland here, minus the 2.5 points. I also don't hate them on the money line at all, but I think that a lot of people are going to look at that Houston spot and be like, wow, they're at home, maybe they're figuring things out. CJ Stroud, like, I need to see it more of, or, be less of an anomaly before I'm like, oh yeah, this Houston team's good. Like, I've seen that on Twitter and stuff. Like, what do you mean this Houston team is legit? No, they're not. Do they have some weapons? Sure, but like, prove it to me one more time than one game against Jacksonville, who, we already talked about. They kind of have struggled already out the gate. So I'll take Pittsburgh here, minus the 2.5 points. Even if this is -3, I like it. I see -3 for even odds over on DraftKings. I think that even odds number is really worth the push push potential there as well. So my final lean here probably is -3 if we can get that over on DraftKings by the time of placing it. And then I also like the over in this spot. I think that you have two teams that, now have had 20 plus points in 2 straight games. Houston, maybe they did. This is where I'm kind of giving credence. Maybe they found something on the offensive end. Like, you don't just score 37 points by accident. You can beat the Jaguars by accident. Like, they can stink, but you beat them by 20. So there's got to be some sort of offensive flow there that they may have found, whether it's play calling or personnel. So I'm going to slightly lean towards the over in this spot as well. 42.5 is what I see on BetMGM and other books, but I've also seen FanDuel for decent odds, -115 at 41.5. So that is obviously a decent number too, 41 versus 42.5. So we'll take the over there at 41.5. I like that more than I do like 42.5, obviously. All right, we have Indianapolis hosting the Rams here. This has switched on its head. So we recorded H to H. Again, go check out that video, guys. Me and Tasso's battle head to head. I always plug that because it's a really fun video to do, and we're going to be doing that for seasons to come. But when we originally did this, the Rams actually were +102 on the money line. They're now favored just slightly at -110. I like them. They are the better team. They're more talented. Indianapolis came off a heartthrob of a game against Baltimore. Like, I think they have a little bit of regression, and the Rams are going to be hungry. They only scored 16 points on Monday Night Football here under the lights against a Bengals team that everyone was saying they pretty much chalk it away. They stink, right? So I think that this Rams team comes out a little bit hungrier than the Indianapolis team, and I like them on the money line. If you can get them for decent odds on the money line, I say pull the trigger. They're, again, favored now at -110, so right now the spread is actually at 1.5. I don't mind them getting a couple points or giving a couple points wherever the spread ends up playing, but money line is going to be my main lean. In terms of the total, I like the over. It just stinks that we haven't seen the consistency, I guess you could say, out of the Rams. Like, they went 30 points, 23 points, 16 points. They're on pace to score 9 points next week because they keep going down by 7 points each week. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they follow that trend. Obviously, Indianapolis, not like the best of defenses either. The Rams had to play against San Francisco in week number 2, and they put up, was it 23 points? Yeah. So I like the over here. Over 44.5 you can get for -125. That may be more of a number there. I know the graphic says 46, but if we can get 44.5 for -125, I don't think that's too much juice to be paying whatsoever. All right, we have New Orleans taking on Tampa Bay. New Orleans 3.5 point favorites at home. Total all the way down at 39.5, and I'll tell you right away, I'm not taking the over here. Doesn't mean that I'm going to go with the under. I do lean under, but these two offenses I am not really thrilled by. I don't trust that much. No Derek Carr for New Orleans, right? Most likely. So yeah, I'm leaning towards the under right away, but I don't think that becomes a final play just because it is such a low number. Well, what I will say, I like the spot for Tampa Bay +3.5. New Orleans, they played Tennessee, Carolina, and Green Bay. Green Bay being the best defense that they had to play, but Tampa Bay, I think, is slightly on another level. They played fairly well against Philly last week, and in primetime there. They lost 25-11, but some bad turnovers by Baker Mayfield. Like, I think they played better than they looked. They obviously, shut down Minnesota's offense in week number 1, then Chicago, I'm not going to give them credit for, but I think this Bucs defense has somewhat of a legitimate, call for being one of the better above average defenses in the league here. So give me the Bucs plus the 3.5 points. Love the number. And then, like I said, I slightly lean towards the under. It's such a low number that I feel like it could be silly, and you could have like a 21-20 type of a game, and it's like, well, yeah, that catch the over, but it was not. It was a sluggish type game, right? So I slightly lean towards the under in this spot. All right, Philly taking on Washington. This is tough because I do think that this Phillies team is finally starting to get going, right? But they're 8.5 point favorites, 9 point favorites on some books too. That's a lot to be laying as a team that, yes, they've now won a couple in a row, more dominantly than they did week 1. Like, the Patriots kind of hung in there week 1. Minnesota, they just outscored, they still only won by 6 points. That was a push. But Tampa Bay, they kind of dominated. And I think that they're finally starting to find their defense too, which bodes well for them in this week. But 9 points or 8.5, it's on FanDuel right now. It's way too much to be laying. So I lean Philly in some sort of maybe money line parlay. We did our parlay of the week already. That video is out if you want to go check it. They're not included in that because this Washington team does have some potential here now. They were 2-0, but they played Arizona and Denver, and everyone was ready to crown them champions. And then in last week's video, and I got a couple hate comments for it, I was like, just prove to me that you can hang with the Bills before everyone's like, Washington is good. And I was like, I think you stink. I think they stink. They lost 37-3 against the Bills, so they played two god-awful teams and beat them, right? They shouldn't even have beat Denver with the pass interference that wasn't called in the end zone in overtime. They played Arizona and Denver, two of the worst teams, got 2 wins, and everyone's like, yeah, let's go, the Commanders. It's just, did I say their old team name at this point in the video? Probably. I did it last week. It's in my head. But nonetheless, guys, I just think that this is a spot where Philly wins, but I'm afraid of laying 9 points. So it makes a spread pick tough in this spot. I do like the under 43.5. I don't really trust Washington's offense as far as I can throw them, and I think this Philly defense is kind of coming together. Like, we could see a similar 25-11 type of a game in this spot, even if it's 25-17, say, right? Because I am like thinking that spread is kind of spot on. That's still an under just by a point and a half. So I'll take the under in this spot. Do I wish it was a bigger number? Yes. 43.5 isn't like a high total, but I do think that it's well worth considering when you look at this total for an under. All right, guys, if you made it to this point in the video, go ahead and comment 20, and I want to know who your favorite NFL team is. Kind of trying to suss out and sense out who the audience and whatnot, what your favorite teams are. I am. Don't hate me for it. Don't hate me for it. I'm a nice one, I promise. I am a Patriots fan, and I know Patriots get a lot of hate, but just born and raised in Boston, so it's not really like I chose the Patriots, but glad that they are my favorite team, definitely for the last decade or so. But let me know in the comments who your favorite NFL team is, and make sure to comment 20 to let me know that you made it this far into the video. And if you did and you're not subscribed, come on now, what are we doing? Don't be a guppy. Hit that subscribe button, guys. Join the Fade Squad, and yeah, comment your favorite NFL team. We're looking at Tennessee taking on Cincinnati here. In terms of head-to-head, in their last 8 games here, this is dating back obviously a while, Cincinnati has won 6 of the 8 matchups here. Tennessee has not looked all that great. They're 1-9 in their last 10 games, obviously 1-2 on the season, but 2-1 against the spread. They're playing close games and they're at home. That is when their one win came against the Chargers here. They had a down week last week, and you could kind of say the Bengals maybe had an up week from what people might have thought was coming from them. So I'm actually going to lean towards the Titans here. You're getting points at home. I like the spot. I think a lot of people are going to be like, Cincinnati's back. Cincinnati's back. I bet on Cincinnati in that Monday Night Football game, right? I still thought that there were some big old question marks in that game. So I like Tennessee in a bounce back spot. Derrick Henry's not going to have a game like he had last week too. This should be a spot in which he's able to kind of get it going to some degree. Last week, he had 11 attempts for 20 yards. His longest rush, 9 yards. Like, what are we doing here? And this is the 3rd worst rush defense this year for the Bengals. So I like some Derrick Henry props, and I like them to be able to go out there and control this game. I'm also going to look at the under, because if Tennessee's just running down their throat, clock's going to be chugging along. Give me the under as well as Tennessee. We might go Tennessee on the money line because that 2.5 doesn't really do all that much for me. If it was 3.5 or 3, I'd consider the spread, but I honestly don't hate Tennessee on the money line here. Keep an eye on the pin com to see what we roll with. All right, Chargers taking on the Raiders here. This one's tough because I don't think the Chargers deserve to be 5.5-point favorites. I really don't. I think they may be the flashier team right now, but Vegas has some juice. At times in that Pittsburgh series game, they looked good. They couldn't really put it all together, but I think that this is a Vegas game here. 1-1 so far on the road on the season here, and the Chargers yet to win at home. They're only 1-2 on the season, but their only home game was opening night, and it was against Miami, in which we saw that defense get picked apart. But I think that the Raiders can kind of open it up a little bit here. They played Buffalo and Pittsburgh in their last 2 games. Those are 2 fairly good defenses. Now, week 1 against Denver, we now know Denver's defense is terrible, but we didn't necessarily know that exactly then. So I'm willing to give a pass. Maybe that's recency bias, or because I'm liking the Las Vegas side of things, I'm like turning a blind eye to it. But I do think that this is a defense in which the Raiders are going to be able to kind of go out there and play well against. So I will take the Raiders here plus the 5.5 points. That just seems like a little bit too much of a chunk to give them, if you're asking me. I don't trust this Chargers team all that much. I don't trust Justin Herbert all that much just yet. In terms of the total, it's sitting at 48.5 right now. It came in a little bit higher than I projected it, to be completely honest. In terms of what I would have had it at was going to be right around, I think, like 46 or so. So I'll lean towards the over, in fact, just because Vegas is spotting it nearly a field goal more more than what I'm thinking. I think that they kind of know what they're doing, coming in a little high. So I'm going to lean towards the over, trusting them in this spot because neither defense is all that great, right? If one of these teams was like a top 10 defense, something like that, I might consider, okay, well, my model has it coming in less than, but in this spot, too early in the year, the model doesn't have enough data. Vegas, you know that they know what they're doing. So I'll take the over in this one as well. All right, see, I can prove to you that I'm not a biased Patriots fan. They're playing the Cowboys. Cowboys at home. -6.5 is the spread right now, and I do think this Cowboys team is way better than the Patriots. I'll say it. I don't care. They're playing way better than the Patriots, okay? Their one loss was just shocking, crazy loss to Arizona, but before that, 40-0 against the Giants, 30-10 against the Jets. I don't care if those teams are kind of trash. Like, that's the real defense right there, right? So I'm going to lean towards Dallas, but what I really like in this game is it being sort of all hell breaks loose on the defensive end in a good way. Like, all hell breaks loose on the offense, I guess, is how I want to say that. But I think these are two good defenses. So I'm going to lean towards the under. That's probably my favorite play in this game. But again, just want to prove to you guys that I'm not this ultimate sort of Patriots enthusiast. Like, that's my favorite team. I love the Patriots. But, you know, sometimes you do got to understand football's football. It's not Tom Brady. They have a lot of issues on this team right now. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we roll with it. But my main play in this probably is going to be 43.5, which just stinks to watch if I know I'm going to be watching that game, right? But it is what it is. The numbers speak for themselves. The performance speaks for itself. Got to go with, not necessarily the gut, but sometimes this small brain up here. All right, San Francisco taking on Arizona here. San Francisco against the spread, 2-1 on the season. They're only against the spread loss, I guess, and it was close. They lost by a half point, was to the Rams in week number 2. Arizona actually playing well against the spread. They're 3-0 against the spread. It's because they're getting these big numbers. Do they hang within 14 of the 49ers? Maybe. I can't get myself to go there though, right? Like, this is the best team in the league considered by many against the worst team in the league considered by many. 14 seems a little too high to lay, so I'm probably passing on the spread here. In terms of what we're looking at from a total, it is something that I can get behind. I like the over 44.5 in this spot, or over 44 if you can get the better line there. This is a San Francisco team that is, like, so far on the season, you could set your clock to them scoring 30 points. Now they're playing arguably the worst team they've played so far, the worst defense they've played so far. They should be able to at least drop 37. If their floor's 30, could they have a regression week? Sure, but let's not act like that's the case right now because the data's in front of us. 30, 30, 30. That has how they have been scoring. In Arizona, the last couple weeks, their offense didn't look terrible. They beat Dallas with 28 points. They nearly beat the Giants with 28 points. Yes, the Giants doesn't really have that great of a defense, but Dallas, that's a good defense. And they put 28 points up against them. So I don't care if it was a fluke or a one-time thing. Like, if Dallas played them 10 times, they win 9, right? But 28 points against that good of a defense speaks to me a little bit. So I'll take the over 44 in this spot as well. And guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, you know to hit that subscribe button. You know to hit that like button as well. Obviously, comment your favorite plays and everything like that. And we'll catch you guys in the next video, all right? Peace out.